The cops had barely driven off when Karen was still standing there, red-faced, trembling, while 2 federal investigators read out charges of HOA fund misuse. 7 minutes earlier, she'd called those same cops to arrest me for parking my houseboat in her lake. Now, that lake, the dock, and even her precious Marina all belonged to me. It started like any ordinary weekend morning. I'd just finished restoring my late granddad's ranch, Wilson Ranch, a stretch of land that had been in my family for generations. The lake out back had always been his pride, a calm blue mirror surrounded by oak trees and a weather-beaten fence line. After years of city noise, I wanted peace. So I bought a custom-built houseboat, floated it into the lake, and planned to spend the night out there with a fishing rod and a cold beer. But apparently peace doesn't exist when there's a Karen living across the road. I hadn't even tied off the ropes when I heard it screech. "You can't park that thing here." She came storming down the dock, clipboard clutched like a badge of authority platinum, bob bouncing with every angry step. "This lake belongs to the HOA, she barked. "Move it, or I'll call the cops." I took a slow breath. "Ma'am, this lake is within my property line. You see that post over there?" I pointed at the old wooden sign that said, "Private Property, Wilson Ranch." Her jaw twitched. "We have jurisdiction over shared water access," she snapped, waving the clipboard in my face. "Shared," I laughed. "Lady, my family built this dock before your HOA even existed. That did it." She whipped out her phone. "I'm calling the police. You're trespassing." I could have ignored her, but experience told me HOA Karens only understand one thing, proof. So I walked back to my truck, grabbed the binder with all my property deeds, and waited. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, 2 patrol cars kicked up dust along the dirt road. Karen strutted toward them like a queen addressing her knights. "That man is invading HOA property with his boat." The officers glanced between us. One looked at me. "Sir, do you live here?" "Yup," I said, handing him the binder. "Everything inside that fence line, including the lake, is mine. You might want to check the county maps before taking her word for it." While he checked, Karen smirked, whispering loud enough for me to hear, "He's bluffing. This whole area's HOA managed." A moment later, the officer came back. "Ma'am, this land and water are privately owned. The HOA boundary ends half a mile that way." The color drained from her face. "That's impossible. Our maps say—" I cut in, grinning. "If you're so sure about maps, maybe take a look at who owns your marina down the road." She blinked. "What do you mean?" "Let's just say," I said, folding my arms, "you might want to read this morning's county auction results." Her smirk cracked. You bought our marina." I shrugged. "Not yours anymore, ma'am. Your HOA forgot to pay property taxes for 3 years. Got repossessed, and I picked it up for the price of your SUV." The cops tried not to laugh. Karen's hand shook around her phone. That's illegal. You can't just—" "I can," I said. And I did. The officers handed her back her fake complaint notice and warned her to leave. But she wasn't done. She held her phone up, recording. "This man is a fraud. He's lying to law enforcement." I pointed to the small black camera mounted on my boat's roof. "Keep filming Karen. The footage streams live to the sheriff's office." Her hand froze midair, and right on cue, a black SUV rumbled up the road. Out stepped Sheriff Daniels, an old friend of my granddad. The man had been dealing with Karen's complaints for years. "Heard there was some HOA drama again," he said with a half smile. Karen's relief turned manic. "Sheriff, thank God you're here. This man's breaking HOA rules." Daniels raised a hand. "Ma'am, I already checked the property line. The lake, dock, and road are part of Wilson Ranch. Always have been." Karen's voice cracked. "That can't be true." "Oh, it's true," I said softly. "And since I now own the marina, your HOA's boats are sitting on my property." The sheriff chuckled. "Guess you'll need a new map or a new lawyer." By now, a crowd of HOA members had gathered, whispering, pointing. One man asked, "Wait, did he really buy the marina?" "Oh, yeah," I said, "and starting tomorrow, docking fees triple." The crowd erupted into nervous murmurs. Karen spun on them, panic rising. "Don't listen to him. This is manipulation. We'll fight it in court." But even her own board members looked unsure. A woman crossed her arms. "Karen, you told us the HOA owned that lake. Karen flipped through her clipboard like it held the answer to life itself. "We do. I have the papers somewhere." The sheriff pulled out his phone. "County registrar just confirmed Marina's legally transferred to Wilson Ranch this morning." The group went silent, only the sound of water against the dock. I looked straight at Karen. "You've spent years bullying people. Maybe it's time you learned what it feels like to be powerless." She glared at me, trembling. "You can't just take everything we built," I smirked. "You mean everything you extorted from your neighbors?" "Yeah, I can." An older man in the group laughed nervously. "Guess we're paying him now, huh?" Karen spun on him. "Don't you dare side with him, I'm still HOA president." I pulled a folded document from my pocket. "Not anymore. Without the Marina, your HOA loses half its chartered area. That means your presidency expired effective immediately." Her clipboard slipped from her fingers, hitting the dock with a dull thud. That's when the fear hit me too. Not for her, but for what I'd become. For years I'd hated these HOA types, their smugness, their petty rules. But standing there surrounded by them, I felt the weight of power shift in my hands. For a brief moment I wondered, am I just becoming the male version of Karen? Was I going too far just to prove a point? I stared at the lake. My granddad's voice echoed in my head. "Land doesn't make you powerful, Jake. How you treat people on it does." I almost told the sheriff to let her off. I almost packed up my boat and left. But then I remembered the letter's years of HOA threats sent to my late granddad accusing him of illegal use of shared resources trying to fine an old man for watering his cattle. She'd humiliated him, made him doubt himself. No, this wasn't revenge. This was closure. Karen turned to leave, muttering curses. "You'll regret this. You'll never get away with it." But before she could reach her car, another vehicle pulled up. Two men in suits stepped out, flashing badges. "Ma'am," one said, "we're with the State Financial Crimes Division. HOA funds have been under investigation for 6 months. We need to ask you some questions." Karen froze mid-step. "What?" The sheriff crossed his arms. "Guess today's not your lucky day, Karen." One agent opened a folder. "You've been using HOA funds for personal purchases, spa trips, jewelry, a luxury SUV. Care to explain?" Her voice broke. "That's not true. I can explain." "Save it for court," the sheriff said. As they led her away, she looked back at me with pure hate. "You ruined everything." I shook my head. "No, Karen. You did that yourself." The moment the cars disappeared down the road, the whole lake went still. The HOA members stared at me speechless. One man finally spoke up. "So, what happens now?" I looked at the water, the sun melting gold across the surface. "Simple," I said. "You can still use the Marina if you respect the real rules this time." He nodded slowly. "Fair enough." The crowd drifted away in silence, their footsteps fading up the hill. I stayed there for a long time, watching the ripples fade. For the first time in years, the lake looked at peace, like it had been waiting for someone to finally stand up for it. I untied the ropes, let the houseboat drift to the center, and sat on the deck as the sunset painted the water red. I thought about my granddad, how he'd fought to keep this land when the county tried to seize it, how he'd never backed down even when people called him stubborn. He was right all along. Power isn't about owning the lake or buying the Marina or winning some shouting match with a woman clutching a clipboard. It's about knowing when to stand your ground and when to let the water settle.